One of the trickiest things for me, and I assume it may be for some other folks, is this transition or jumping point or transformation point from the from the um, from the physical to the spiritual. That the principles are the missing link. Mind, consciousness, and thought is the missing link from the physical to the spiritual, and it it has been elusive throughout history. Um, Fortunately, Sydney Banks really got a, a, a white light experience of the validity of the principles, and he said, um, and I'm going to read what he said about it. He said, um, the three principles are and this was the day after his enlightenment. He said this and wrote about it in his autobiography. He said they are the Trinity, are underlying all of humanity's psychological experiences here on Earth. And right now, he added, and right now, I doubt that the field has even a clue of their existence. So he could see that he had found something that was totally a fact, and that few people, if any people, had a clue of their existence. So he had discovered something so critical and important to psychological experience for everybody on the planet, yet it was completely unknown. And so Brett and I, as well as many of you all, have been taken with the truth of that, and we've been struggling to convey it to people, write about it, um, uh, share it in as many ways as we can, and learn more about it. So um, Brett and I have decided for today in this town hall meeting to just kind of take a moment and elucidate the the spiritual nature of these principles so that it might become more familiar to you all. We've enjoyed a lot of insights around this very topic, and we wanted to share it as freely as we can. And we wanted to take this opportunity of this town hall meeting to do so. So this is our an opportunity for us to do that, and we're so happy so many of you have joined us for this, and we do this as a service, a public service uh, to our fellow colleagues, and we're basing this particular presentation on the spiritual nature of these principles, and it's not that hard to grasp, but it's so utterly simple and so utterly logical that it has eluded humankind effectively since the beginning of time. And that um, elusive nature or hidden dimension or whatever you want to call it, the missing link, Sid called it. He dedicated a whole book and all of his books to the missing link in one way or another. Um, is the key. And if we can, you all will permit us, we're going to share with you uh, some some further insights that we've had about this missing link and its nature. It's formless. and it's spiritual. It's not physical. And you can't figure it out because it's right at the heart of the connection between divine mind, divine consciousness, and divine thought. Or we could say on the other side of existence, we could say mind, consciousness, and thought. They're exactly the same thing. They are the Trinity for all human psychological experience on Earth, period. And we want to uh, uh, share with you uh, what further we have to say about that. So, without further ado, um, I'm going to turn it over to Brett Chitty, my colleague, uh, who's become a remarkable spokesman, in my opinion, for this missing link, and he has something to say about it. So take it away, Brett.
Thank you, Pete. Thank you. Beautiful introduction too. Yeah. Okay. So hello everybody. Nice to meet you all here today. So today's topic is jumping beyond the boundaries of time, space, and matter. Okay. So I just want to start things up by saying there is a quote by Banks that to be honest with you, befuddled me from the beginning until I had to meditate about it. And the quote is, life is a divine dream suspended within the boundaries of time, space, and matter. So I thought before I say any more about time, space, and matter and beyond time, space, and matter, what did that quote mean to you? I'm hearing a couple of people share their thoughts about it. Anybody?
Mhm.
Looks like not many people want to speak up. Okay, but Tony Smith said it's formless. Okay. Okay, so then my experience is I was kind of like, I saw the quote and I'm like, yeah, I know it. Not realizing I had completely missed it. Okay, it's like I completely glossed over it. Uh, so, so as I kept learning the words of Citibank to keep investigating, keep studying, and then I realized that it's simpler than I thought it was. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start putting things up on the whiteboard behind me. And I want to introduce you to what we are describing as the reality formula. We came up with the name of it, but the formula itself was derived by Stigney himself. You will find it in page 42 of the Enlightened Gardener Revisited. Okay, and the formula is mind plus thought plus consciousness equals reality. Okay, sometimes I might swap the unconscious around, but I don't think it really matters. So that's what it is. But in the membership program, Kate and I do called Uncovering the Hidden Dimension, as well as two run-up programs we've done. One is called The Three Principles from the Beginning, and the other one is called The Miracle of Separate Reality. We've been very persistent in talking about this formula and what it means. We keep banging on and on and on about it because that's where the magic arises from. Okay, so that's the key here. But for some people, just saying mind, thought, and consciousness equals reality is not enough. And thankfully, we have many more quotes from Stead that will told you a little bit more about mind, about thought, about consciousness equals reality. So don't, if you join one of those programs, we've got a whole page where it introduces you to those principles. But so with mind, my one of the simplest ways of saying it is mind is the energy of all things, whether in formless or form. Or mind is the intelligence of all things before creation, after creation. For me, I think they're both exactly the same, but just using different words to point in a certain direction. Okay. There's another quote that I think is quite pertinent. Page 6 of the missing link. This says, the divine passes from the formless to form, and as human beings, we are both spectators and participants in this spiritual theatre called life. Okay. So here's City's interpretation of what that means. We have a box, right? And I call this box the spiritual theatre. If you imagine the theatre, you've got all walls, the ceiling, and the ground, and a stage in which all the play takes place. So I call this the theatre. But because it's spiritual, there's nothing physical about it. It's the spiritual theatre. So there's no walls or anything. Okay. But so we also know mind, formless and form. We have the formless and form, and both of them are within the principle of mind. Again, I want to emphasize it is the principle of mind, not your mind or my mind or personal mind. The principle of mind. They're different as night and day. Okay, so everything you know about mind, put it to one side and just look at the principle side of things. Okay, and often, okay, that thought is the spiritual wish that allows something from the formless to be transformed into form. It's a bridge. So what I do now, that I put in the middle another principle, P-O-T, principle of thought. Okay, and from that quote again, formless to form. That there's a direction here. It goes in one way. So I'm going to put an arrow here. Right, it goes this way. Okay, already very significant, because if we look at the form and then we try and figure out form, if we want to have insight which comes from the formless, because of these arrows, if we start here, we can't get back here. So you can't use the form to get to the formless. You have to start there. Okay, so that was interesting to me. The word form is just one word. I could put in here reality, reality being an expression of your thought in the moment. I could put feeling, feeling being an expression of your thought in the moment. I could put experience, experience being an expression of your thought in the moment. And it's all being brought alive by the formless in the first place. Okay, so we have the principle of thought. Again, the principle of thought, not your thought, my thought, or personal thought. There are two different ways of understanding it. One is more helpful, the other one is on a personal level. Okay, so that's what we have here. We've got the principle of mind. We have everything taking place inside the principle of mind. Everything takes place within that spiritual theatre. Doesn't take place anywhere else. Yeah. So for me to realize that all the reality that I see is taking place inside mind. There's no such thing as reality out there. Reality is taking place inside. Okay? That was news to me. It was mind-boggling. Okay. So we talk about this formula over and over and over and over and over again because there is so much insight you can get from it that is helpful for you, that's practical for you, and it's quieting for your mind. Okay? And we also try to do our best not to add anything to it. Because if you add anything to it, all you're doing is putting the shroud on top of it to prevent you from insight from coming to you. Okay? That makes sense so far. Yeah. Okay, since most people have their cameras up, do you want to type the letter Y in the comment to let me know that you're keeping up with me so far? And I know you're keeping up with me. Yes, yes, yes. Quite a few Y's. Yeah. All right, cool. Thank you. All right. All right. So now let's talk about the time, space, and matter element. Okay. Actually, I'll do one thing first before we go any further. Citibank did an extraordinary had an extraordinary way of letting us know that we have two ways of using mind. Two ways, not three, not four, just two. Okay. And I can't really convey it that well, but I'll do my best. But there is kind of like so what I've drawn here, the top box, which is the inside out way of using the mind, because you've got the formula and the form in the same dimension. And the bottom one, we are still using the same principle, but it looks to us that the formula and the principle of thought is nowhere to be seen, which is why I kind of made it all blurred, and the red box is dotted out. Right? That's what's happening. But in the experience of it, it looks like we've got a reality that becomes the basis or the foundation in which we use our minds. Okay. Now we already know that it only works one way. So if you start from the reality, start from here as your source, you will only go this way. Okay, this way. Right? Which means it's taking you away from wisdom with regard here. Okay, but when you're here, you've got the wisdom with you. Actually, come to think of it, I'll take the word formula out and I'll put the word wisdom in here instead. I prefer it that way. What the word are doesn't matter. He's pointing to something. Okay, so this one, we've got the whole picture because we've got all three principles accounted for. And with this one, we have no principle, and therefore we are likely to have a basis of misunderstanding reality, feeling, and experience. Okay. Again, I want to emphasize, I'm not talking about how good or bad your realities are, how high or low your experiences are, how positive or negative your feelings are. I'm not talking about that. It's not what we feel, it's that we feel. Here, you get the that. When you make reality or wherever goes there, the basis, it becomes all about the what. And our mind just multiplies. Okay, so here's the two ways of using the mind. We have the inside out way of using the mind, a step inside, And we have the outside way of using the mind, which is taking it outside. Ironically, both ways of using the mind take place inside, just that the experience of it makes it feel like it's out there or it's inside. So here, you've got wisdom because it's inside. Here, you don't have wisdom. I mean, you do have wisdom, but you're disconnected from it. Right? Because the reality over here is not in the same dimension as where wisdom is. They've been cut off, they've been separated. But in the inside, they're in the same dimension. Therefore, you would have realities with wisdom built in. Simple. Okay. Okay. So, are you still following me? If you are, type the letter Y in the comment, please. Yes, yes. Everybody's saying yes. More Ys. Yes, yes. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. So we've got these two ways of reading the mind. So time, space, and matter. One of the things that disturbed me for a long, long time, and this was before I came across the principle, is the idea of time. Okay, I had learned from my physics classes when I was a kid, which was God knows how many decades ago that was now, and a few YouTube t-shirts about stones I like to hear, right? And they talk about the arrow of time. Okay, the way I don't know anything about the arrow of time, but here's how I understand it for now. But the arrow of time is a constant, meaning the rate in which time moves doesn't change. It doesn't accelerate and it doesn't slow down. Okay? And I thought, okay, fair enough, that makes sense to me. Right? Now, I'm not saying that the arrow of time is actually constant. I think over a time scale of billions of years, I've been very ashamed, but I don't know anything about it. But in the human lifespan, it's pretty much linear, totally flat. Okay. So the question I had though was, why did I have experiencing where things seem to go so slowly? And sometimes I have experience where it's like, oh my God, where did the time go? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think you do. Yeah. So for example, when I'm not feeling well, maybe a cold or flu or something, and it's very difficult to get to sleep, and then I finally manage to get to sleep, and then suddenly woken up by, I need to sneeze, and then I look at the time, I'm like, oh God, it's only been 15 minutes I've been asleep for. Oh, I realized I haven't had any sleep, and then I'm still so tired. Can't we hurry time along? My dad had a heart operation recently, and there was a clock at the top while he was sitting bedridden in bed. He really hated the clock because it was going so slowly. So, but bless them. And that another, but on the other end of the scale, when I'm doing something that I'm really enjoying, having so much fun, right? What I thought I might do for like an hour turned out to be 5 hours long. And I'm like, where did those 5 hours go? So I'm being faced with the question here, right? Where we have arrow of time, right? Which is kind of like straight line, right? But my experience of time is more like this. But I'm going, those two don't look similar, do they? In fact, they're very, very different. So if time is linear, how is it that I'm having an experience where time seems to move fast or slowly? Okay. And I didn't have an answer. I just knew that it was the question waiting to be answered. And then the three principles solved it for me. Okay, because I started to realize that it's not so much about time, because that was where my direction was going. It was more about the experience of time. Right? And what is experience? Experience is the expression of my thought in the moment. So I went, time goes there. I am creating my experience of time, which is very distinct from physical time. They're not the same thing, which explains why we have two different diagrams going to different rates of time. Okay, so I'm having an experience of time. Another classic example. I remember one day, quite a few years ago, excuse me, I decided to go to the shop, to a supermarket, to get a few items, right? And when I arrived at the supermarket, there was a security guard there to stop me from going into the shop. And he said, "We're closing now." And I'm saying, "We're closing? I thought you closed at 10 o'clock in the evening. I arrived at 5 minutes to 7, so I thought there was another 3 hours." Right? And he said, "Yeah, we normally close at 10 o'clock, but today, bank holiday Monday, therefore we're closing at 7. Right? And in that moment, it struck me, which is, I'm not having an experience of the day. I'm creating my experience of a day. In other words, I'm not having an experience of a bank holiday day. I'm creating my own experience. I was like, oh my goodness. He let me in anyway, because there was only two things I wanted to get over and be more than 5 minutes. So thank you, security guard. So those are ideas about time, right? Physical time, again, I'm not saying we are making it up or it's real or true or anything like that. I'm not going that direction. I'm here to point in the direction of how do we experience, how do we feel, how do we have a reality? Okay, so when we say I'm having a reality of time, we are not having a reality based on physical time. You see, because this is a spiritual theatre and it's a closed box, there's nothing outside that can get inside the box. Nothing. Zero. Nada. Nothing can get into it. Everything created inside out. Okay? I have to admit that. Okay. So I started to realize a deeper level of what time meant within the context of time, space, and matter. Right? So, but there were a couple of things. I'm not going to do a very good job at explaining this. One is that there's a well-worn staying in self-help circles, maybe, I don't know, with the time is a great healer. The three principles showed me something else. You see, it only takes one thought to change your reality. Therefore, to be healed does not take physical time. It takes one thought. That's it. So suddenly, what looks like it's going to take ages to recover from, now we've just got one thought. And it happened. We've seen it happen in people. I've observed it myself. And it was like, oh, this is so much quicker than time with the great healer. Okay? Well, one thought away. One thought away. I mean, it's like suddenly right under your nose, it's right there, not out there where time is. Okay? And the other aspect that I'll invite you to speak more about is is the past. Okay, because I saw for myself, you know what? My experience of the past is not coming from the past. My experience of the past is happening because of my use of the principles in the moment to create my experience of the past, my reality about the past. But my reality about the past was happening now, in this moment. It's not the past that happened, although however long ago it was, giving me the experience. It wasn't. I went from outside, this way viewing the mind, to this way viewing the mind. I went inside. Oh, now I understand what's happening. I'm seeing the past because of my beautiful principle on this moment. But Keith, could you say more about um, how having the principle correct our way of understanding the past?
Well, yes, when I had been uh, trained in graduate school and psychology. I got a PhD in psychology, and I happened to hear a story about it was about Sydney Banks. These two leaders had met Sydney Banks, and they uh, they assumed everybody had to deal with their past, and they happened to ask Sid, who had had this enlightenment experience, and um, he was not interested in what they were doing to get people to deal with the past because and they said, well, why not? Why aren't you getting people to deal with the past? And Sid said, psychology is not about the past, because the past is not about time. And when they told that story, now Sid lived in outside on an island outside of Vancouver. I was living in Texas, but I thought, wait a minute, what? Like, it was like the past is not about time, and I couldn't get my head around it, but it stimulated me. I thought, if this man is enlightened, what's he saying about the past? And then I decided right there and then I wanted to meet him. So that's what I did, and I had to find out his name and where he was and what have you. And but that one thought, that one phrase, psychology is not about the past. It blew my mind, and I couldn't, I couldn't get it together. It it confused me, but it set me on a course of meeting Sid, and I'm so grateful that it did because and then later on I heard him say once that evolution is not about time. It just appears as time in the logic of time, but it's not really about time. That evolution was a jump in a level of consciousness. And that's what evolution is. And that doesn't have anything to do with time. It has, and again, that really confronted all of my instructions or anything I'd seen on television about history and time and evolution and dinosaurs. It was all on a timeline. And but he had a different world that he saw, that it was about a change in the level of consciousness, that was what was really going on. Um, and we weren't living in a physical world by his testimony. We were living in a psychological world, that everybody was living in a psychological world, and they didn't really know it. They thought they were living in a physical world. Well, that really set my mind racing, and I've been studying the principles ever since.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, beautiful. So here's somebody professionally trained psychologist with a PhD for an encounter with Citibank or the understanding of the principle. Oh, he went somewhere else altogether. So beautiful. Okay, so to follow on from that, um, there's also quite a few comments from Sid when he spoke about the past, right? And he was, and I think he was quite precise or careful about how he spoke about the past, right? And the way I understand him talking about it is that if the past had an experience take place here, and we know that the whole process, um, I'm sorry, I'm putting it into time, but I don't have any other way to say it. And we know that the whole thing only works in this direction. Okay, right. So, so if the path is here, right, and it only goes this way, but to have insight about the path, you won't find it in the past. You will find it before creation, including anything you create about the past, right? So that's why there's a couple of metaphors like you can't um, make a silk purse out of a stove, out of a pit ear or something like that. That's one example. And another one he also said it's like trying to go into a shower to dry yourself off. Right? So that's why I now understand why going into the past is not where the magic happens. It's over here, not over here, over there, before creation, not after the fact of creation. I'm like, oh, now it makes sense. I mean, it only took me like 12 years before I saw it, but 12 years better than never at all. So, so now I've got an understanding of why going into the past is not a good idea. Okay? Does that make sense? Type in why if it does in the comment, please, if that makes sense. Going into the past will not give you the insight you need to be free from the past. Yes, why, yes, why, yes, yes. Cool. Thank you, thank you. I like the way you're all listening. Okay, okay. So, um, so, so by putting the experience of time back where it belonged in the first place, right, we find ourselves with a mind that's a lot quieter. Because if you're using your mind the outside and way and use the past as the source in which you go about life and using it to contaminate the present moment, and then you've got all these thoughts multiplying like rabbits, as I've depicted here. Okay, and get so as you realize what's actually happening, your mind quiets and quiets and quiets, right? And in that experience, there is a sense of timelessness, the sense of the now. The now isn't something to achieve. The now isn't something to create. The now is not something, it's not, it's not a criteria you have to fulfill. It's not something you have to work on. Because I realize if the more I saw what was actually happening, the deeper my experience of being in the present moment, being in the now. So I'm like, but wait a minute, but I'm not doing anything to create it. And yet I'm having a deeper experience of the now. That really got me. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love hanging out in the now. I didn't want to be anywhere else. But what's going on here? And I realized that, again, this is a electricity thing, I call it. That's right. Principle-based quality, or I put down PBQ, principle-based quality. These are qualities that is derived from the principles, not by man. Okay, another way of saying it is the qualities are pre-existing. They are already there waiting for us to experience. Okay, so the quality of the now, which is timeless, and then nothing to do with time based on matter, is already built in here. It's already built in the formless. So when you're inside out, you're going to be in the now, whether you want to be or not. And it's a very profound place to come from. It's another dimension. In contrast, if we're using mind the outside in way and we're in the past, oh, I need to put myself into the present moment, I need to find the now. I'm coming up with man-made ideas of how to create a man-made idea of the now, what I call a man-made quality. Right, which is so much shallower than what this now has to offer. Because wisdom, or the formula, is basically an entire ocean in a drop within you. Here, you've separated the drop from the entire ocean, and that's all you got. You've only got the drop and nothing else. So this is the man-made way of doing it. This is the principle-based way of doing it. Okay? Does that make sense? Why in the comment, please? Yes. Yes, 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 sir. Thank you. Okay, cool. Great, great. So I started to see that now had nothing to do with physical time at all. The now also had nothing to do with the experience of time. And yet we experience time because we're in the now in the first place. The experience, or after creation, is the shadow of the true reality which takes place here. So we are pointing people, okay, this is how the mind works, but can you see that within you? You being the spiritual you, not the physical you. Okay. And just very briefly, somebody asked about the future. Yes, we can do the same thing again. I can put future here. Are you having an experience of the future in physical time, or are you having the experience of the future created through thought? There's only one way in which you can have a reality, and that's through the principle. There is no other method, any other mechanism for you to have a reality. Okay? So whatever your future is, you are seeing it through thought. Again, I'm not saying you shouldn't go into the past or the future. All we're saying is, you're having a reality about the past or the future created through the principle. Therefore, it's not about what is in your reality. It's that you're having a reality, and the principle make it happen for you. Okay? Hey, anything to add before I move on to space?
No, it's just no, not nothing to add. It's just I think this is a kind of a big takeaway, and what gets taken away is all these thoughts that carry with me about the past or the future, for example, or so many other ways. The now, the truth of the now, subtracts mental illness, because mental illness is when the mind can't rest and is uh, lost in its own creation and is tormented, and there's a disquieting of the mind. And so uh, this is an enormous importance to me and to humankind. So thank you, Brett, for pointing this out in a very helpful way to me.
Thank you, Keith. That also reminded me, the mental health, all the psychologists, psychiatrists, counselors, therapists, people helpers, people just want to look for a better life. And with Citibank again, we kept saying, those professionals have got to bring the client back to the now, back to the now, back to the now, back to the now. Right? Because when you see the now take place here, when you take them back here, you've stopped the person from going using this mind and having all these thoughts, and therefore they found mental health. This is why it's important to, before you could think, okay, how do I bring the client back to the now? I didn't know how. But once I started this, I'm like, oh, okay. Talk about the principles, and when they have an insight, they'll be back in the now. And then they will have deeper insight. It's that simple. It's literally that simple. So bring the person back there. The now is not a unit in time. The now is something that a constant. Okay.
Oh, say that
Oh,
word again. Say that word again, Brett. That last word,
the,
I didn't
the
understand
now.
it.
The now is the constant.
Oh, right.
The now is
Okay.
the constant. If, yeah, we don't experience a clock. We experience now. Okay. So shall we move on to space now? Yeah. Do, do you have, before I do, is what I've said about time making sense to you? Do you find yourself having a deeper appreciation of the now? Type Y in the comments if you do. Yes, yes, yes. Quite a few ways here. Okay. So um, I, I hope that um, I hope that you're not believing anything I say. Really, don't do that, because anything I say has no ability to give you an insight. Anything I put on this board has no ability to give you an insight, because there's only one place where insight comes from, and that's from within your soul, that's within you. Nowhere else. So, hand on heart, I hope you've learned nothing from me, but you've learned something from your own soul.
Mm.
Okay, all right. Let's move on to space. Mm, I've done D2. Great. Okay, uh, space. How do we understand space? This one really got me. I couldn't really figure it out at all. Um, so, uh, no. one of the things that I went through as a kid, um, my dad would sometimes take me to the local cinema to watch the latest films and that kind of thing. I was a very insecure person at the time, and it felt like I had to have somebody with me for me to go to that place. Okay. And one of the films that we watched um, was Terminator 2 with Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Which I thoroughly enjoyed. Oh, I've got to tell you, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Uh, uh, However, my dad did not enjoy it. He um, and I'm like, why did you not enjoy it? And he kept saying things like, "Oh, look at how silly they did. They got all these special kind of missing Arnold every time. They got all these special effects, that kind of thing. It's so crazy, it's so stupid, that kind of thing." Right? And I'm going, wow, he's really seeing the film completely differently to I'm seeing the film. So when I stand, I'm really having a good time. It was as if I am in the film. It was like I was Arnold Schwarzenegger or I was this character and I was going beep, 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 at everyone. I was doing it myself, like I was there. Right? And I realized that's why I enjoyed it, because I'm having the experience of it. But, but it didn't quite satisfy me. I wanted to have something, what's actually going on here. Right? So, so now, if we come back with this formula again, we have reality being the expression of thought in the moment. Right? What I was doing was that I wasn't doing anything with mine, but that's where I was in the moment. I knew with the film, but that's not the point. The point was that I was enjoying it inside of me because reality takes place inside. I was enjoying the film inside. It was the film was taking place inside and not on the screen. I mean, yes, it's on the screen so we can see it, but uh, to observe reality take place inside. So that's why I enjoyed it, because I can just go with the flow of the film. And my dad was going all these intellectual thoughts, he did reasonable, he did silly, he did stupid or whatever. He was here. He wasn't in the film, he was making judgment about the film. Okay. So that's one example of space. Another example is earlier today, I was watching my football team play a game of football. But again, it was like I was in the stadium because I was watching it on my monitor. Right? But I wasn't actually there. I'm here. So how is it that I can have an experience of being over there when I'm here? So this is where space comes in. Right? So my experience of space isn't taking place out here. It's taking place inside. Okay? Put it this way, I can imagine myself lounging away on the beach this moment. Where's the beach? Not here. I can imagine myself um, oh, I don't know, wearing a spacesuit, going on a spacewalk outside the space station. But I'm still here. What's going on? So I started saying I'm really experiencing things through thought and not anything else. So my experience of space isn't happening over there, it's taking place inside. Okay. Kate, when we spoke before this meeting started, you said something about space that was very profound. Would you mind sharing that again, please? Something to do with
Yeah,
location?
it occurred. Um, and by the way, as many of you may know, but Sydney Banks' own autobiography was titled Beyond Time, Space, and Matter, which gives you a clue the importance of these principles and their nature being um, before creation and after creation. Um, so in thinking about in these many years of studying the principles and such, I hit upon a word that really struck me that I never heard Sid say per se, but it struck me as true. Before creation would mean non-local. So it wasn't happening in any one place. It wasn't in my uh it wasn't anywhere. It was nowhere. And it was at the exact same time it was everywhere. It was nothing and it was something. And they were co-occurring. So it jumped me out again of this illusion of time and space. Non-local meant I couldn't go find it. And Sid would say this. He would say things like, "Why are people going to India to find God? Why are like why do you have to go anywhere?" And he was just um, he couldn't help commenting on the search for something, some guru or some philosophy or some religion or some the search would inevitably lead people in the wrong direction because they're looking for something that wasn't there. It was everywhere. It was already everywhere. It was nothing. Well, when you say nothing, it doesn't mean, oh my God, it's really just nothing. No, it's everywhere. So when you end the search, and that gives you a chance to be in the now and be with life and and end the relentless and insatiable search. So the not being non-local, it eliminated that uh, illusion of locality. It wasn't it wasn't in any one thing. It was everything. It was beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. Space was a term I had trouble coming to terms with, but once I understood location, that made a lot more sense to me because, oh, I thought I had to be somewhere to have an instant. I thought I had to be here to get an instant. I thought I had to be over there in order to get the knowledge I needed. And it turned out I didn't. I didn't need to be anywhere because when I realized I don't need to be anywhere, I'm everywhere. It's, it's one of those, it sounds like a paradox, but it makes perfect logical sense with the three principles. There is not a paradox. It as Keith said, it's non-local. Okay. So that gave me, again, had a similar effect to understanding time. Once I understood location or space, it had a quieting effect on me. All these ideas about having to be somewhere was no longer in my mind. Right? Because space here, if I'm here, I can't get insight because I'm already after the fact. When I'm here, oh, now I can hear something deeper from within. So again, it raises another principle-based quality, a pre-existing quality. And I call it here. We're here. And if you think you're here over there, you think you need to be somewhere and come up with all these ideas of how you need to get there. And come up with techniques, willpower, strategies. Oh, I've got to book a holiday so I can be there. No. Those kind of thing. Okay. So we've got two profound qualities as a result of going beyond time-space and matter. We've got the now and the here. The here, not physical, but the spiritual here. This is where I am. And the beauty of realizing that is because the here, or the wisdom with it, they're both in the same dimension. So I can experience wisdom. I can talk from a place of wisdom, or the formula, or intelligence, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. So it's a nice place to be. I highly recommend it. And what's more, you don't have to pay thousands of dollars to get there. It's completely free for everybody. Okay. Okay. So did this here now make sense to you? Type in with the Y in the comments. Yes, 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 yes. Cool, cool, cool. I will, by the way, I will ask everybody for a roundup of their insight at the end of when I've done matter. Okay, cool. Right. Okay, so we've got a deeper appreciation for the now. We have a deeper appreciation of the here, and both of them within the context of the three principles, not something outside of it. Okay. Shall we move on to matter now? Which I think it's a really, really fascinating one. Okay, let's go to matter. Oh, by the way, when it comes to matter, whenever I have a client, one of the questions I like to ask them is, what's the matter? I think it's a little thing. Because when I say what's the matter, and they tell me what's the matter, well, guess what? They're telling you what's in their matter. Now, the three principles are doing the job for me. I'm not doing it. Okay, so we have matter here. Matter here. Okay. Okay. So, matter. A few weeks ago, I shared something in the Miracle of Separate Reality program that we did. And when I said it, it took even me by surprise. Okay. So, I'm going to try and remember what I said exactly, but let's do a little experiment. I'm not encouraging it, but let's do a little experiment. Think of a person that you love very, very much. It could be your spouse, it could be your parent, it could be your brother or sister, it could be your children. Doesn't matter. Think of a person you love very, very much. You should get a lovely, warm feeling about that person. Okay. Type in with a Y in the comment if you've got that person. Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. Okay, cool. Okay, so you've thought of a person. Here's the question. So you've thought of the person, which means that you are seeing the person, aren't you? Right. Well, have a look. Is that person there with you? Right. But more crucially, have you noticed that the person you're seeing is in your head? Right? But did you notice that your head did not expand to take in the physical person into your head? No, it didn't. Wow, that really just blew my mind. Oh, so the person I'm seeing in my head or inside is not the physical person. It's an expression of my thought in the moment taking place inside. That was a game changer for me because as I was understanding the nature of reality and how it connected to these three principles, right? Um, I I started to see the other people that I see, the people that I love, the people that I don't like. You know, I'm not treated quite well and love everybody without condition. I'm getting there, but still a long way to go. Uh, I started to realize every person I'm seeing in the moment, it inside of my reality, which is taking place inside. It's not happening elsewhere. It's certainly not happening out there. But now, the other person is out there in the physical, yes, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about where reality takes place, and that takes place inside. The once I saw that, I was like, oh, I don't, that's an interesting idea. I don't know what that means. Uh, well, a few hours later, after that realization, my sister came over to see me. Very nice, that kind of thing, right? And we said hello and that kind of thing, right? And then as I was looking at my sister, I'm going, it was as if she has changed. It looked like it to me, but I'm going, I don't think she has changed. It, there's something different happening here. Uh, and and I realized, oh, I'm not seeing my sister in person over here. I am seeing my sister inside my reality, inside of me. Right? That's what I'm dealing with. And I'm like, oh, right. And because I'm inside, right, where love comes from, I found myself being able to love my sister more deeply than ever before. I was seeing her in a completely new light. I was seeing her spiritually. Oh, spiritually? It wasn't anything like what I thought it would be like because I've always seen her as she was. Or at least I thought that's who she was. But I realized I'm dealing with my reality here. Right? That as a result, I was so much more present with my sister because when I'm inside, all these thoughts about the outside didn't exist anymore. I could see her more clearly and without contamination of thought. And therefore, I had a really lovely conversation with her. She hadn't changed at all. I had, because I went within. So, the appreciation of matter is an expression of my thought in the moment, meaning it's taking place here, not over here. Before I was seeing people over here, and therefore I became judgmental about them. Oh no, they're nice. They're not so nice. That person should be locked up. We need to create a law against this. Oh, this person needs to go to the hairdresser to have a haircut or whatever. All kinds of judgmental stuff. Uh, I um, and um, um, and I apologize for saying this. Now I hope it's not offensive for people, but I had um, an invisible judgmentalism about certain groups of people. Right? One of which was the Jewish community. Right? But once I realized that my experience of the Jewish had nothing to do with the Jewish community themselves, but my own use of the principle of it. And I had all these judgmental thoughts about them. And then when I came here and I'm like, oh, those people are not who I thought they were. Right? So I saw things more clearly. And the beautiful thing is, I've now got a friendship with many Jewish people that I very deeply appreciate and gotten to know. I'm very happy to call them my friends and colleagues and hope I'm staying in the same light that they do for me. So the principle opened up another world of possibilities that I never knew it could give me. Wow. So so matter yes, there is physical matter. For example, this pen that I'm holding in my hand, I can feel and touch it. It exists, yeah. But my experience of the pen is happening inside. Okay. And that's why I'm able to not get so caught up in matter anymore. I now have the freedom of thought to use it more wisely. And as I use it more wisely, there is more love from a deeper place. That it's like an invisible well. An invisible well that's infinite. It truly is infinite. There's no end to how much you can love. Another thing it did for me was that it stopped me from believing that I can only love people if they love me first. I didn't need to do that anymore. I can just love them no matter what. Even if they commit the most hideous crime, I can still love them. Now, it doesn't mean that they can get away with that kind of thing. When I say I can love them, it means I'm using my mind wisely. That's what it means to have a positive life, to use your mind wisely. Okay. Okay. So, so matter. I can think of an elephant, which is a great big massive creature, very beautiful, right? But my head is not expanding to put a great big physical elephant into my head, and yet I can see an elephant. Oh, isn't that proof for once and for all that the elephant I'm seeing is not physical? All matter that we all see is not physical. And yet, the principle, when we remove the contamination of personal thought, we get the ability to see matter more clearly. And when merged with thought, we can think about them more wisely instead of being using matter in physical as the source in which we can have thoughts about. Inside, out. I prefer to say inside in, but it appears inside out. Okay. Last thing I want to say before I ask people for questions or insights. So we've spoken about time, space, and matter. We've spoken about the experience of time, space, and matter. We've now spoken about the now, the here. So what the matter equivalent for me is just, hang on. We have the now, the here, and matter. None of the elements of the periodic table, none of it. I've asked somebody the question, okay, what is the principle of thought made of? They never get anywhere. Right? So I'm going to say the matter equivalent is simply thought. We have the now, we have the here, and we experience through thought. Put all three together as one, you've made it. You've conquered this world. Guaranteed. Each and every one of you have the ability to conquer this world. And all it takes is one step to the inside. One thought away. That's all it takes. I don't care how troubled you are. I really don't care. We're still one thought away to the inside. That's it. Okay. Okay. Two more things before I ask the question. From Citibank Autobiography, he wrote a book called Beyond Time, Space and Matter. I'm only going to share the first line, the very first line, only one line. And it's a water punch. Citibank said, beyond time, space, and matter, is a true story.
Hmm.
True story. Lastly, just to wrap things up, what really, really helped me, there's a story about Toastmasters in that autobiography. And I'm not going to stay it. I just want to summarize one quote. So Citibank was asked to speak at a conference or make a presentation about something. I can't remember what it was, right? And his mother-in-law was afraid he accepted the offer because she thought, you know what, you've got to do all the preparations, you've got to write the speech out, that kind of thing. And Citibank tried it before when he went to a Toastmaster and he wrote, right? And he just wanted the ground to swallow him up. But after his insight, he realized he didn't need to do any preparation anymore. And he said, time is an illusion. Take away time, and my speech is already done. Time is an illusion. Take away time, and my speech is already done. So I'm thinking, take away time. What an idea that is. I've never heard such a spiritually tangible way of understanding time. Take away time. So we have these three physical elements, time, space, and matter. Take away time, and you've found the now. Take away space, and you found here. Take away matter, and you found God. When you take away time, space, and matter, not left with nothing, you've got everything. Literally everything.
Hmm.
Okay, so Kate, um, anything to say about matter or the whole thing we've got so far? And then we can ask the audience if they have any question, comment, insight to share.
Well, I'd just like to throw it open to the audience and see what, to hear from the town. Um, in our remaining time, please offer whatever um, you have on your mind. Thank you. Thank you, Brad.
Yes. Okay, who wants to go first? Anna.
Hi, Brad. Hi, Keith.
Hello.
Everybody.
Hey.
I couldn't reach for the unmute before when you read about beyond time, space, and matter and what that that had any meaning to us. The only meaning that has to me is that it goes way over my head. That's the only thing I get from that. It goes way over my head. It goes way over my intellect, but it gives me a beautiful feeling, and I learned to treasure that. I learned to let that feeling, um, you know, teach him what it needs to teach me, which is there is nothing that can really take me out of it unless I cooperate with via my thoughts. So I missed part of the presentation because there was something happening here and it was pretty unexpected and intense. And what I'm glad to say is that I'm still very calm. I'm still very centered, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful to know this understanding, and for the people that share it, because that's what we get. We get a wiser way to live life, from a deeper wisdom, where we bump less into the furniture and we have to make less amends, and we can see with a wider lens. Um, and yeah, the beautiful now is always available with me noticing my life. Always, always. So that's what I came to share to me to share right now. I appreciate being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Job.
Hi, Brett. I've never heard that spoken like that before, and I just thought that was amazing. The now, here, and the thought. And what I was really into, that thought and thought as matter, it just really hit me that like almost like the emptiness of matter, like divine thought is almost like empty thought, like, or one thought, or kind of freedom of thought. You know, when we've dropped into that quiet space, it's like there kind of isn't thought, and it's sort of like it just felt very light to me, the idea of matter as thought, and very light and simple, and kind of like the absence of matter, I suppose, that actually as Keith was saying, it includes everything, but it's also like sort of empty, spacious nothingness as well. And yeah, so when you link that thought to matter, I just that's what came to mind. And the closeness of it as well, it's sort of close, it's very tangible and here and now. So yeah, thank you. That was brilliant.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, but one of my friends said to me a long time ago, an empty mind is a rich mind. Yeah.
Could I call on someone, Dave? I noticed you said something a long time ago, or earlier, that but do you have any thoughts?
It's great to see you both, Keith. First of all, a lot of names here I don't know actually, but it's really nice to see everyone. Um, you know, just on, I really like to hear from other people. Actually, I love it when people ask questions, and it's often just a tremendous way to learn. But just on this question of the past, which I think is an interesting one because it seems to impact so many people. And so many people are prisoners of their past. And it causes a tremendous amount of anxiety and torment in so many people. At least it seems that way to me. And this is one reason why my father really focused so heavily on that particular topic. And from his own personal experience, I'll just tell a quick story, and that is that some of you, I know you know this, Keith, but some of you might not know that he actually had two significant epiphanies. And the first one took place in August of 73 in a place called, it was a counseling center called Cold Mountain. It actually had nothing to do with the mountain. It was actually on a beautiful beach. And that epiphany had a lot to do with his understanding of the past. So actually, the way he got there was through an elderly aunt of mine named Carol. She's a wonderful lady, and very, very close to my father. And she and her husband had gone to Cold Mountain for marriage counseling. And they actually had been counseled by Alan Watts, who was a senior counselor there. And so she had said to my father, you know, I really think you should visit this place. And he, as you know, he canceled and he booked it, and he canceled and he booked it several times. Anyway, he finally went, and the epiphany he had there had to do with his own victimization with his past. He had been tormented his whole life. You know, he had I guess one would say, a challenging upbringing. You know, he was orphaned, and he had been, you know, adopted as a young baby into a family, and all his siblings were adopted. And it was wartime in Scotland, and it was difficult circumstances. And so I think he held a lot of emotional pain and resentment about that whole experience of life. So the epiphany he had on Cold Mountain was that he had carried all this emotional pain his whole life, and that he didn't have to. You know, as he said, you know, it's past is just a thought carried through time, and he realized he didn't actually. It was self-inflicted. He didn't actually have to carry all this burden, emotional burden, his whole life. So that was a real major epiphany for him. And it was a huge release, you know, emotional release, when he realized that he was free, in a sense. He was free from his past. And the only thing that mattered was the present time, the now. And it's interesting, Keith, because the way my aunt described it, she was actually, you know, I was with my father when he had his major enlightenment experience, and my aunt saw him the next day, and she had a very interesting take on it. She said, with the two epiphanies, which were, by the way, were 3 days apart. The first one was on Cold Mountain, and the second one took place on Salt Spring Island. She said, I think his first major epiphany was more of a psychological understanding. And the second one was a much deeper, more spiritual understanding. So the whole concept of mind, consciousness, and thought goes back to that original epiphany, when he realized that thought, you know, is just a memory carried through time, and and that we have this thing called divine free will, where we can choose what thoughts we embrace and what thoughts we don't. And I thought that was a very interesting. Never heard that before. I thought that was a very interesting way to look at it, and it really. He was in a very elated state for several days after that insight, and it really, he was, you will know this, but he was at Gold Mountain, and he was talking with a couple who actually turned out to be professional psychologists, and they were talking about insecurity, and he was saying how he really struggled with insecurity. And this psychologist quoted the Old Testament and then said, you know, Sid, I think that's ridiculous. You're not insecure at all. I don't get that from you at all. And it was at that he had the aha moment at that point, when the psychologist said that. It just struck a chord with him somehow. And he went down to the beach and sat on a log for quite a period of time and just reflected. And it was such a deep insight for him, such a simple insight too, like overly simple almost, that he didn't have to burden himself with his thought. Now, the interesting thing is, I remember him saying to me, is that it doesn't mean that you have to completely abandon your past, which a lot of people think he's saying. He's not saying that. He's saying you can get to a place where you can deal with your past in a very neutral way, and it doesn't have power over you. And that you can you can look at it from a very different perspective, a very different point of view. So you're not judging it. You're not embracing it. It has no power over you. You're in a state of forgiveness, perhaps. And when you're in that state of now, which he defined as a state of love, you can look at your past in a very neutral way, and again, it just has zero power, and that's a very important part to understand as well. I think people think I have to completely disown my past. I have to completely escape it, you know. But that's not actually what he was saying. And so anyway, I'll just leave it there. But that, and Keith, you could certainly comment on this because you knew him very well also. But anyway, it's an issue that I know a lot of people struggle with, and it can be very painful to people, and it doesn't need to be. That's the point. You know.
Thank you, David.
Thank you as well, Dave. Do you want to talk about that? Because I would like to as well.
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead, Brett.
Okay. Again, so I've said that when physical time-based matter, I'm not saying it's made up or not real or anything like that. Whatever happened, happened. I can remember many times in my own past, it's like, oh God, that kind of thing. I know that. But what gives me the immunity to understand the past is the principles, not the past as the source to understand it. So when I store this, right, when I'm inside out, I could go into the past because I've got the principle of thought to protect me being here now. Instead, the other way of using mind, letting the past dictate how I'm using my mind in the moment. It is a world of difference. Now again, I'm not saying that what happened in the past didn't happen. Far from it. Right? So, but the realization for me is the past is the memory carried through time. We're using the principle to create the past in this moment. It's a game changer. Because here we've got the wisdom. We're using wisdom to understand the past. And the other way of using mind, you've got no wisdom to understand the past, and therefore your ability to misunderstand or misinterpret the past is going to be very high. And therefore all the negativity, all the struggles, all the anxiety is going to flood your mind. Today, the reason why we do this, I think, is very innocent. I think the reason why we do this is because we believe there is something in the past that we need to get hold of, or we need to go into the past in order to change it. It looks like dealing with the past is the solution. It is not. Honestly, it is not. It's like it's the equivalent of looking for the needle in the haystack, not knowing that there is no needle in that haystack. So you're going to keep searching and searching and searching and searching and searching forever. Maybe for decades, maybe to the day you die. You don't need to anymore. Because in the inside out, the needle is given to you without the haystack. That simple. So the two ways of using the mind is key here to understanding whatever forms we have, including the past. When you have the formless or wisdom, you take your forms impersonally. When you use the other way of using the mind, because the impersonal comes from the formless, you now have an understanding of the past without the impersonal, meaning you're going to take it very personally. It is such an innocent misunderstanding. And all it takes is one insight into the nature of these principles, spiritual principles. It's not a thing, it's not an object, it's spiritual, it's formless. If you have an insight in that direction, you're going to gain a spiritual immunity that so many people in the world can only dream of. And here we are today, blessed with, hopefully with that spiritual immunity, but also the understanding in which we can share it with everybody else. So they too can have a chance of acquiring spiritual immunity. It's available. It's right here. It's just one thought away. If you've been spending decades ruminating over the past, you're still one thought away from being free of it. Two ways of using the mind. There's only two. One is principle-based, the other one isn't. And yet both of them happen inside. David, thank you for sharing what you shared. That was the part of the very...
Brett, it was my father's being chained to the past emotionally was so powerful that he refused to go back to Scotland for many, many years. From the time he landed in Canada, he would not go back to Scotland. And then he had that insight and he went back to Scotland shortly after that, and he fell in love with it. And he realized that he had created in his own mind this negative picture and that it wasn't actually reality. And he went back every year after that and for many, many years. And he just loved it. But it was like an anchor chain hanging from him, for all those years. And it polluted his whole take on his past,
Yeah. It's amazing how you see something from within and it changes everything. I had a similar experience, but not about the past. I don't know if you know, Dave, but I am profoundly deaf. You may have noticed by the way I talk, it's quite deep because I can't hear the higher frequencies. So I wear a cochlear implant in my left ear. But all those years ago, this is exactly the same story as did about the past, but not about the past for me. It's about my hearing. And what I was insecure about was other people thinking about me being deaf. Right? And to me, it looks like the only way I don't have to encounter it is to not go out and meet those people. Therefore, I would stay at home. I became a recluse. I didn't go out anywhere because I didn't want to meet anybody. I just didn't want to face people judging me for being deaf. Now, I didn't know that was actually my own thinking about what they think about me being deaf, but hey ho. And then I had my insight, which is, oh, the formless is there. The universal intelligence is underneath all my experiences. And somehow that gave me confidence. That gave me the realization that I could actually go out and meet people. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I'm like, okay, well, after 12 years or 10 years of being a recluse, right, not meeting people, not developing my language skills, how to communicate, I go out and meet people. Right? And then I met somebody for the first time, right? And I didn't know how it was going to go. And I did it undeported, meaning I didn't have my parents with me to deport me to listen or that kind of thing. So I did it, and I'm like, and then when I finished it, it was like, you know what? It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. So, and then it started to really roll. I started meeting another person, and I started meeting another person. I'm like, crikey, I've spent 12 years not meeting people for no good reason.
That's a very similar situation. Yes.
Yeah. But the content of Sid insight and my insight is different. But what made that insight occur came from the same place. It was that extent of freedom. It was that. It was freedom. It unlocked another step, another world of possibilities that were completely invisible to me. It was as if it wasn't there. And now I'm like, wow, what a miracle. I'm so lucky, and I'm super grateful for Steer to have had that opportunity to have that insight, because I came across the three principles. Don't ask me how I came across it, but thank God for that. Otherwise, I would be none the wiser, and I wouldn't be any better off. I would just carry on living an unquestioned life. So,
That's a great
Sydney,
story. That's a
thank
great
you.
story. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Yeah. 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 Hey,
Well, thank you. I know we're coming up upon 2 hours here, and but it's just been remarkably wonderful. I'm just grateful for all of it. Thank everyone for this this experience and this town hall, and um, uh, Godspeed uh, on your next steps in your journey. Um, and thank everybody, even those that didn't say anything. I know you uh, may have gained something for your own welfare, and that's why we're doing this. So we'll have another town hall meeting in the future. We have our programs. The ongoing program that we have is Uncovering the Hidden Dimension, where we just hammer away at these um, truths. And uh, please join us for any and all of them that you care to. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you. God bless. Okay. So we'll see
thank
you
you.
later. See you later,
Okay.
alligator, as they say.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. Lovely to see you. Thank you to Dave included. And as Keith said, God bless each and every one of you.
Yeah.
And take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Keith,
Thank
just
you all.
before we go, there's something I want to say, because I kind of feel my father's presence is here in the room. But one of the things that he used to often say when he was giving a talk, and to me it's very important, is that don't try to figure it out. Like, it's not important that you figure it out. It has to find you. You you so, and often it will in time. It starts to make more sense down the road. So it's very important that the intellect can sometimes be a hindrance when we try to figure things out. So anyway, I just wanted to say that, because that message came loud and clear to me from my father.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
just um, kind of like, let yourself um, just be cool with it. Just like, and don't try to overthink it. Don't try to figure it all out.
Yeah. Don't don't take anybody's word for it. Just go with them, and everything Dave said makes sense.
Let it
That's
simmer.
all it takes.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Okay. So everybody have a good time hanging out on the inside. Bye-bye, everyone.
Okay. Thanks, Brett.
All right.